Welcome to Bible study at the beach. We're going to get ready. Get started here in just a second. Let's give another little bit for some of our friends to hop on, and Priscilla is sharing it to our church group, and then we will get going. Yep. That's it. All right, so we thought it would be fun for our last on-location Bible study together to come to the beach, mainly because I've just wanted an excuse to come to the beach. I haven't been able to be here for a little while, and so we are at Priscilla Beach, and we're looking forward to sharing God's Word with you. I am super excited to have Priscilla join me on this one. I love being able to teach with her and have her share her insight, but also I thought this would be really appropriate for what we're looking at tonight, because as we talk about Proverbs 31 and we zero in on what it means to be a woman of character, I wanted to make sure that I had a woman involved in this process, because it can be really easy to just get that narrow view, my view of the world, my masculine view of the world, and I didn't want that to creep into our study tonight. We want it to be a time of encouragement. We want it to be uplifting for you. And I wanted her to be able to be a part of all of that. And so, that being said, like we talked about on the way over here, one of my concerns has been teaching this in a way that wouldn't be encouraging, or that might even be discouraging or harmful. Were you able to think of a time where you've experienced something like that?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. So we're going to skip that one and just kind of jump in. And so my goal, like I said, is for this to be encouraging, and for us to be able to see that God's Word, the intent behind God's Word, of course, is to communicate to us about God, to draw us to God, to connect us to God, and to teach us how to live. Sometimes because of our experiences in our culture, we read some things into it that aren't super helpful. And sometimes that happens with this passage. And so just right off the bat, wanted you to know some of the things that our hopes are for tonight, so that this can be encouraging for you, whether you're a man or a woman. We hope that this helps to uplift the value of women, and to help us with those different relationships that we have between the way men think and the way women think and the way we go about the world. These are the kind of things that we had laid out that we wanted to encourage you with tonight. So one is that a woman's value is from who she is and not what she does. It's really easy for us to zero in with anyone on what they do, and to kind of equate their value to that, and to devalue who someone is on the inside. So we want to hit on tonight that a woman's value comes from who she is, not what she does. That character is of greater value than competence. We've all seen in the past where there sometimes is a different standard for the very talented, the very wealthy, for superstars, athletes, whatever it may be. Sometimes they are treated differently because of their competence level. We want to emphasize character. Competence can be taught. Character has to be developed over a long time, and it is of much greater value, especially when paired with competence. This was the other one, so we were going to kind of take a second to talk about, and that is that beauty really comes from the inside. That is hard to live by in our world. There is such a huge emphasis placed on the way that we look, and a certain idea of what physical beauty is. But the reality is that physical beauty fades and changes with time. And so inner beauty, something that comes from the inside out, is so much more of a greater value. And so as we were talking about this earlier, one of the things I asked Priscilla was, like, how do you feel when you hear that? Is that helpful? Does that help you to push back against some of those cultural norms? Or is that just a cliche that doesn't really help?
I think it helps if you really take it seriously. But unfortunately, a lot of women don't take it seriously. Like they want to believe that who you are in the inside is important outside. But with today's culture and with everything that we're taught, I think it's too often that it's what you look like on the outside, your size, what color eyes you have, how you look, just all that kind of stuff. I think people put too much emphasis on. But, if we really believe that, it can make a difference. If we really believe that what's on the inside is the most important, because that's really true. If you can believe that in yourself, then yes, you want to take care of yourself and you want to look the best that you can look. But the important thing is truly believing that making yourself on the inside what God created you to be, and just continuing to work on that. I think if you really can believe that, I think you will be happy with the way that you are on the inside and the outside.
Good, that's perfect. And so that's where the emphasis is going to be tonight, is developing that character from within, and understanding that what we're going to look at in Proverbs 31 is meant to be the ideal and not to try to set the standard for perfection. One of the ways that this can be discouraging is if you really get into the weeds of all the details of how the ideal woman here is described, and it'd be easy to think, well, I'm not really good at that. I can't make things with my hands. I don't have business aptitude. I see this checklist of things that I've got to live up to, and I just can't do it. And then that can spiral out of control into all of these other negative feelings. And so what we want to communicate tonight is the things we're looking at and talking about are meant to be the ideal. It's meant to be something to strive for, but to understand that everyone has different giftings and abilities, and that's okay. And then last but not least, we want to emphasize tonight that true contentment lies in our relationship with Christ, and that when we're able to focus in on that, then that flows from the inside out and helps with a lot of the other struggles that we can have in these areas. So that's kind of the outline of where we're going and what we're hoping to accomplish with you tonight. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive in and read a little bit. All right, there we go. So Proverbs 31 verse 10 says this: a wife of noble character who can find? She's worth far more than rubies. The very first idea here is that someone of noble character, a woman of noble character. And here, in this picture in Proverbs, she's described as a wife. That doesn't mean that a woman has less value if she's not married. This is meant, again, to be the ideal. And so if you're not married, all the same stuff can apply. A woman of good character is rare, he says. Reality is character is hard to find in all of us. Character is the essence of who we are. It's the distinctive traits that make us who we are. And we look for good character because good character drives everything else. We're going to talk about some physical attributes and some outworkings of that character in a minute. But the reality is, if the foundation of the character isn't secure, then the rest doesn't flow. So we have 4 daughters. And so this is a big deal to us because it's important for us to not just, for me to recognize Priscilla as a woman of good character, but one of the things we want to do is to develop good character in our girls. How do you go about that? How do you instill those good character traits in these young women that are coming up and following your example?
So the first thing is being amazing, because they are watching everything that I do. And so one of the big things that I try to do is, if we have a discussion or something and later I realize that I was in the wrong, I don't just let that go. I will go to them and I'll talk to them and I'll tell them I'm sorry, because them seeing that in me will help them to realize that that's what they need to do in their life. As kids, once, if they get married, if they have kids, all of that kind of stuff, it's all very important. That's one of the most important things is for them to have that instilled in them. So, and then just the way I live my life. If I live it one way at church and then another way at home, they're going to see that, and then they're going to think that's the way that you live your life. And so I try to, yes, I goof up and make mistakes and sin just like everybody else, but I try to be genuine, and in the way I act at the church, I try to make that be the way that I act at home. home and for them to see that, and then just having many long discussions with them about, all types of things, character, purity, and friendships, having genuine friendships and stuff like that. And so I've been very blessed that my girls feel comfortable when they have a question or they have a problem with something coming to me and sitting down and us talking it through and helping them get through it in a godly way. If they're frustrated and angry at somebody, helping them to work through that in the right way.
Exactly. And so on the way over here, we talked about an element of character, which is trustworthiness. In verse 11, it says, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. The reason he has confidence in this kind of a woman is because she is trustworthy, she is faithful. And you really hit on that. I don't know if you remember exactly what you said, but there were some key elements that you kind of laid out there in what it means to be faithfulness and trustworthy.
Well said.
I was reading that one out. The big thing you talked about was that it's a choice.
Yes.
Faithfulness is a choice. Trustworthiness is a pattern of action, a pattern of activity. And so it's when you do the right thing over and over again, and that establishes that pattern. And so a big part of that, like you said, is, especially when you're talking about passing that on to the next generation, is setting that pattern for yourself. But then also, just like you said, sometimes you are going to fail, and going back and owning that failure and then making it right is another thing that establishes trust. And the bottom line, though, is that the character has got to be the foundation. And so it starts with that idea, like a woman of good character is hard to find. In other words, not meaning that like you're a bunch of lousy people that don't have good character. It's not the idea here. He's saying that there's great value in that. It's rare. It's something that's special. In Proverbs 18, it says, he who finds a wife finds good and receives favor from the Lord. Proverbs 19 says, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. The idea is there's great value in a woman that has good character, because everything is going to flow out of that. The way that you live your life, the way that you approach your career, the way that you order your home, all of those come from that foundation of character. Picking up verse 12, he goes on to say this: she brings him good and not harm all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hand. She's like merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of the earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets out her work vigorously, and her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her family is she sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. A lot of stuff going on in there, and I think that's kind of the section sometimes that can get discouraging. And so on the way over here, you had mentioned like bringing this more to modern times. Sometimes there's that pressure to do everything. And you got to be the good mom, you've got to be the good wife, you've got to cook well, you've got to clean well, you've got to manage all the stuff at home. And then for some people, some women also manage a career well. I was reading an article today about how part of the struggle of everything we've gone through with COVID-19 is that more pressure is put on women, because now many are working at home and they're balancing watching their kids who are homeschooling while balancing a career, and there's just a lot of pressure there. And so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with sometimes having that expectation, internally or externally, that you just got to be good at everything?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's what this is saying. I think this is just giving a list of a lot of possibilities and a lot of things that you could be really good at. But I personally believe that God gives us certain gifts, abilities, talents, things that we enjoy. And so not everybody's good at cooking, but I believe, but if you're not good at cooking, I think then you're probably good at, something else. Maybe you sew, or, like to clean and clean well, that kind of stuff. And so I don't think it's necessarily, we've got to look at this and a woman has to be all of these things. I think it's investing in what we're good at and what we need to do and getting better at those things. And then there are some things here like character. That's something everybody should have good character. That's something that we do have control over. We can choose to have that better character and to work at that, versus maybe cooking. There are some people who try to cook well, but you still just can't cook well. Just, that's just how you are. But with your character, that's a choice you make. If you choose to constantly, not have good character, lie, do immoral things, things like that, always have a bad attitude, always be rude, things like that, those are choices that you are making. So that is a choice, and I think that's the most important thing at this, is really having the good character, which is something you can work on. And then, like you were saying earlier, if you have that good character, then you are going to be, trustworthy for your husband, and he's not going to worry about you and stuff. I mean, if he does things on his own, apart from you, no matter how you, act, that's on him. But if you're doing what you're supposed to by having good character, by being faithful, by loving him the way that you're supposed to, then, I think kind of those are two of the most important things. And then, if you love the Lord and you're following him and you're continuously growing in him, then those things are going to fall in place. And then the other things, it's just, try different things, and if it's not a good fit, go on to something else. Don't worry about it. Do what you feel that you need to do and what God has called you to do.
Right, exactly. And so really kind of going off of what Priscilla was sharing, if you look at the theme of that passage in Proverbs 31, but really it's on hard work. That's the underlying character trait that you see right there, is that she's willing to work hard, she's willing to take care of her family, she's willing in a minute to have compassion and provide for others. And so hard work, perseverance, excellence, financial responsibility, time management, those are all things that flow out of that core foundation of character. And a word on that for the next generation. We talked about this a little bit on Sunday. Sometimes we try to spare our kids from hard work because we want them to have better, and to be honest, we sometimes want them to have an easier life than we have. But the reality is that the value of hard work is that it builds character. The way we learn to persevere, the way we learn to strive for excellence, the way we learn to manage our time well, all of that comes out of working hard. And so it becomes a cycle, a good cycle, where you work hard and that builds character, and that character causes you to work harder, and positions you so that you can serve and love others. And then I love that coming right off the heels of that is that she's a compassionate woman. Verse 20 says, she opens she opens harm to all the poor. So like taking them out. Let me try that again. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. It's one thing to be heavily focused on caring for the family, but here's the danger. We get tunnel vision super easy. You strive for career, you take care of family, you balance all this stuff, and it can be really easy for us to have such a narrow view that we don't see people around us and what they're struggling with and what their hurts are. And so with that idea of compassion, this woman, this kind of woman, has her eyes open to the needs of others, and then she's willing to share her resources to meet that need. And one of the things that I thought, and tell me if this is just like male version cliche or whatever, but honestly, in taking the time today to think about the value that women bring to the table, one of the things that I thought of is that typically your side is what brings in the nurturing and the compassion. And teaches us how to do that, teaches us how to be open to seeing those needs, teaches us how to slow down and stop striving and start caring. She says yes. Okay.
I didn't blow it. I didn't blow
I think what you, especially once you become a parent, a mom.
Yeah.
But even when I was back, before I had kids, when I was taking care of, I still had, it's different having my own kids, but back when I used to, be a nanny for 10 years and then also do children's church and nursery, all the things, youth group, all the things at church, there's those kids sometimes that you can just tell that maybe they're not getting that at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know if that's just me or, just, all women or whatever, but I just always kind of had a special interest in them and wanted to, help them and take care of them just very much.
So that might be interesting. We don't want to stereotype. That's our perspective. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. Like, do you feel like that's really a unique blessing of women, is that you bring that sense of compassion and nurturing to the world? It doesn't mean that guys don't do it, but we don't do it as well or as naturally as some. And so let us know. Like, are we missing something, or do you feel like we're on target there?
Different.
Yeah.
It's probably a different, just in like different ways.
Yeah, because sometimes our nurturing is like rub dirt in it and move on, right? And you guys are like the hugs and kisses and stuff.
Right.
And so, but we need both. And I think that's one of the core things that we can learn in talking about the differences between men and women, is that God designed us uniquely on purpose. We both bring something of value to the world. Neither is better than the other. We need to stop competing with each other and start working together. So picking back up where we left off, verse 21 says, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed, and she's clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband's respected at the city gate, where he takes a seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. One of the things I love in that portion is the theme of wisdom. Our pastor, when we first got married, the church we used to attend, always would say that wisdom is the ability to live life skillfully. A lot of times we think of wisdom, we equate it to knowledge, but the reality is wisdom is the application of knowledge. It's having some knowledge, having some understanding, but knowing how to apply it to life. And that's what you see in the woman, or the kind of woman that's described here, is that because she has wisdom, she's prepared for the future. She's not afraid of the days that come ahead. She's not worried about whether or not it's going to snow, because she's ready for it. She chooses her words well. I love that verse where it says she speaks with wisdom. Our words are so powerful, and we often overlook the power of the things that we say, either to do good or to do harm. We sometimes withhold things that would be really encouraging and would build people up, and then we're way too quick to speak the things that hurt. But this kind of a woman with the character that's being outlined here is a woman that chooses her words well. She speaks with wisdom, and then she teaches others. It says faithful instruction is on her tongue. One of the greatest things that any person, but in this context that women can do, is to pass on that legacy to others, to share with the world, to share with your kids, to share with friends, the things that you're learning as you go through life. We all learn because of our experiences. We all grow because of the context that we live in. But very few, it seems like, of us are willing to take that knowledge, that experience, that wisdom, and share it with others. So you shared, as you prayed on Mother's Day, that part of the impact that women can have is to take that opportunity to of course, pour into your kids, but to pour into other people's kids, or to pour into even other adults if you don't have kids of your own, or even if you do. I mean, really, having your own kids doesn't negate spending time with, investing in other people, and even investing in your husband and helping to shape him and love him in the direction that God has for him. How do you personally So I didn't prepare you for that question, but it came to me. I think it's a good one. How do you personally take those experiences that you've gained, those lessons learned, especially sometimes the painful ones, and pass those on?
I think the main thing is looking for the opportunities and being aware of them.
Yeah.
Like when the opportunities, come around. So just like you were saying, I mean, even if you said, even if you don't have kids, even if you do have kids, that you could reach out to other kids. Well, your kids have friends.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times that you might have the opportunity with your kids' friends to pour into them, because there's so many broken families out there, and so many abused kids. And so if you're on the lookout for those types of situations and you're just available to let those kids know that somebody cares about them, and not only that you care about them, but that God does, that can open huge opportunities for you. And then, like you said, really in every relationship, because, with your friends, even with strangers. I mean, when you see a stranger that is in need, if you reach out to them, and then, your husband always being available to them when, they're struggling with something, or, there's those times that you can just feel that they need some extra attention because maybe things have been really rough at work, or maybe things have been, really tough, in the family situation or whatever. Just being available and not being so self-focused that all you're thinking about is yourself, that you miss opportunities of being there for others and helping them.
And so then a big part of it is a willingness to be open. That can be hard sometimes, and we don't always like to share, especially failures and hardships, with other people. But that can be one of the most valuable things that you can pass on to someone, is to be open about how life is in your family, things that you learned, the struggles you had as a kid, teenager, even young adult. Being able to just pass that on, because wisdom lived out is good, and that is one thing, but I think wisdom passed on is stronger. When you live it out, you set that example, and you said that early on, like that's important, to set an example that others can follow. And as believers, we're called to do that at all levels. It's not just with our kids, not just with younger people. The idea is that we would all set an example to follow, so that we're all being able to follow and learn from each other. And that's great, but we also need to take those opportunities to literally sit down and share with someone and pass that wisdom on to someone else. Next verse says that she watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So, a couple of final thoughts. One is that a woman of noble character is honored by her family. She has a great legacy and a great name. A great legacy, we just talked about that. Passing on those lessons that you learned, the hurts and the joys, the hopes and the fears, to the next generation, as you mentor and as you share with others. That's huge. Our legacy will greatly outlive our lives. And one of the things that we can grab hold of when it comes to our mortality is that even if people don't remember our name after we're gone, they may remember what we did, how we treated them, what they saw in us. And that's the kind of a life that Christ has called us to. Not only does this woman have a great legacy, but she has a great name. She has a reputation that other people see. There's this theme throughout this that her husband gains honor among others because of the life that she lives. And sometimes they can get twisted, like it's only about giving him honor. But what if we look at it from another perspective? What if we see that as just a symptom of her character? Like her character is so great that her reputation extends, and that has an impact on others. And the key to reputation is remembering that it takes our whole life to build, but it can be lost in a moment. That's why that character is so important. Building it, having integrity, learning to be wise, loving, compassionate, all of these things that we've been talking about, those all come together to form the character that you present to the world. And the goal for us as Christ followers is that people would see that character and they would see Christ. But it only takes a moment. It only takes a mistake. It only takes veering off course a little bit for that to be wrecked. And so it's a lifelong process of not only establishing reputation, but protecting it.
Well, and your reputation is very important because, kind of like you're saying, it doesn't just affect you. If I do something to ruin my reputation, it doesn't just go with me. It goes with you as a husband, and it goes with my kids. And it's something that they might not even have anything to do with, but it can reflect on them and cause problems for you in your life. And so that's why it's not, again, it's not just about us.
That's right.
So we have to be careful about how we act, what we say, who we hang around, just all of that kind of stuff, because it's not just about us. It's about everyone who is a part of us, especially our family.
Exactly. So, another question I didn't prep you for. She's gonna hate me when this is over. I talked her into this, and thankfully I have the keys to the van, so I'm okay. So, like we've talked about with so many other things, the external is easy to see, and sometimes that's what we focus on. We focus on doing the right thing, saying the right thing, not doing the wrong thing, not saying the wrong thing. But the reality is that all of these things flow out of our relationship with Jesus. Right? That's the point. We nurture that. The other things then become symptoms of that. In verse 30 it says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." I kind of zeroed in on that as I was finishing up my notes, and so I went back and looked through the book of Proverbs at the times that the fear of the Lord was mentioned, and out of 20 of them, 5 pointed to direct impact on our life. Listen to these. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord adds length to life. The fear of the Lord, those who fear the Lord walk uprightly, and whoever fears the Lord has a secure fortress. That relationship with Christ is truly what everything else flows out of. Without Him, we don't have a secure foundation for what good character looks like, and we definitely don't have the means spiritually to live that out. And so, I've got to figure it out. The question is, for you personally, how do you keep that the forefront in your daily life? Because you are, like probably everyone that might be watching this, crazy busy being mom, being wife. Responsibility at church, having, for some having a career, raising kids, like all those things play in, and they all pull at you in a real way, and they all call for your time. But you can't neglect the really important things because of the lack of balance.
Go days and not pray, because you're so busy doing all the things that you lose focus of what's most important, which is spending time with Him. And so we just have to make sure and make that a priority so that it doesn't get lost to everything else, and everything else becomes more important than what should be most important.
It's like we've talked about before. That means you've got to say no to some things. It means you've got to rework some things. But it also calls for perseverance. because we all fall short. We all get distracted. We all have peaks and valleys. And so it's not, I think sometimes, kind of like we talked about the misconceptions about this passage, sometimes we have the misconception that our relationship with Christ should just be this upward trend of always getting better. And just like this, that's the ideal, but it's not necessarily the reality. But it's in the striving that we get the best possible outcome of where we can be for God. One last thought is verse 31. It says, honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring praise to her at the city gate. If I could speak to the guys for a moment that hopefully are still watching, I think that speaks to us that the idea is that we would be intentional about recognizing the value of the women that are in our lives. It's easy to kind of go on autopilot and to feel like, well, she does a good job. She knows it. She knows that I love her. She knows that I value her. But we all need to hear those things. And so we've got to be consistent in saying, I love you, I value you, I recognize the good that you do. But in that, also focusing in on that her value, again, is in her character and not what she can do for us. It's not just about whether or not she can cook well, keep a clean house, and do all the stuff. Some of it is just recognizing the great woman that she is on the inside and then voicing that to her. Because the reality is the other stuff changes and it can change quickly. And we learned that this last year. For those that have heard our story, you've heard us share about her diagnosis. She has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The quick version is that impacts all of the collagen in her body, the connective tissue, the part that holds everything together, makes all of the joints work and all of that kind of stuff. And some of the symptoms from that have meant that she's not been able to do some of the things that she's done in the past. And so if all of her value is placed in the things that she can do and not who she is, then I'm not going to see the value in her as those things change. And the reality is my body's going to grow old and change as well, and I'm one day not going to be able to do the things that I do now. And so what binds us together is that recognition of the value, true value and worth coming from the inside. And that's not just in the marriage relationship, that's in all relationships. If we want them to be strong and to grow, we've got to recognize that God-given beauty within each of us comes from who we are inside. And so guys, we need to be very intentional about that. But for the ladies, I would say to you to remember that as important as it may be to strive for excellence in the things that you do, the real treasure is in cultivating your culture, your character. Cultivate who you are on the inside. The beauty of that is going to flow out, and it is going to be seen, it is going to be recognized. The people that really love you are going to want to show you the value in that. And sometimes you may have to speak up and remind them, but a much more powerful thing is to show it day in and day out. And so we hope this has been encouraging for you. We want to lift you up. We want you to feel empowered. We want you to be able to live out your God-given design in this world, and let all of that flow out of the character that's within you. And close out. If you have anything to share, don't think so. Well, if you think of it later, it's too late. So just so you know.
I think I said everything.
Hey, thank you guys for joining us tonight at the beach. And we are looking forward to next Wednesday night. Next Wednesday, we will be back in the church building together for our Bible study time. It'll be at 7 o'clock. Youth and kids will start at 6:30. And we're looking forward to that time of worship with you. We also want you to know that there are more resources that you can get through our website. It's revivechurchlakeland.com. And we would love to be able to connect there and strengthen you in your faith as we go through this journey together. So God bless you guys. Have a great night. We will see you next time.